Hey there, it's Carson Heady. Today we want to talk a little bit about how many prospects can you effectively handle, manage, and work with, collaborate with at once. It's a fantastic question. Um, I think it's important to realize that there is no limit to the number of people that you can reach out to and attempt to engage with. There's often times where, specifically, if I have a little bit of downtime or if I'm intentional about maybe carving out or scheduling some time in my day to prospect, to drive relationships, or to, make a touch point, to follow up on a note, obviously prioritizing based on heat and warmth of relationship. Um, there's really no limit to how many people you can have in your network. That said, you're going to and you're going to have to gravitate towards certain folks. And I'm going to hark back to what I just said about the heat of relationship. There's a way to prioritize, frankly, your book of business. And you've got to do it based on that heat of relationship. It's kind of a heat map, You look at the different metrics. You look at where there's interest. You look at where there's, potential revenue that's tied to those opportunities. It's critical that you look at it that way because, frankly, that's what you owe your organization. You owe them a number. You got to figure out where you're going to get that number. And typically, I've personally managed anywhere from 3 to 230 accounts in any point in my tenure in selling. And during that time, 230, it's a challenge to manage that. And obviously you're limited on the amount of deep relationships that you can have with BDMs and influencers. However, there's absolutely ways that you can find to scale, doing mail merges, doing newsletters, inviting them to events, inviting them to webinars, quality touches, following them on social media, making comments on their posts and things of that nature, sending them links to articles that may be of interest, given things that are transpiring in their industry, in their organization, or even things that are, hark back to conversations that you've had with them. So there's ways to make quality touches even when you have 200 plus accounts or 100, or when you have 3, when you have a handful of accounts that you cover. Then it's paramount that you are digging in as much as possible into every account you have. I'll give you an example. So when I've managed a small amount of accounts, I've probably reached out to anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people in those organizations with LinkedIn connection requests, email, just different types of outreach geared toward getting the meeting, period. Because you got to get the meeting to develop any kind of relationship and rapport. Once you've got that meeting, you go in under the pretense of what they may want to talk about. So what's free value I can add for them? Do they invest with me today? How am I going to get that meeting? From there, you want to uncover, what's their jurisdiction? What falls in their jurisdiction? What are priorities, pain points, priorities that you can jump in on, frankly, pretty quickly and add value on? What are conversations that make sense to be happening from here? How do you tee that up? So that's ultimately what you want to do. So even if you have 3 accounts, 5 accounts, 10, 100, 200, you're going to gravitate toward the people that are talking to you, taking the meetings, but then also where the opportunities lie. And don't get me wrong, I've made the mistake of chasing some of the deals or opportunities that were lesser. I tend to believe in the merit of opportunity, even if it's a deal or opportunity that has not warmed as quickly as I'd like or should. I've done that before. So the other key thing is, can you bring other people into the boat with you? Are there vendors? Are there partners? Are there other resources, other colleagues, other people on your team that can get engaged, that can help you scale? Because ultimately, if you can create a sales team, create an army, and you put them in place, or you empower them, or you give them resources, or you give them funds to go forth and sell, freeing you up to move on to do other things, that helps as well. But personally, if it's just you, and you're the resource and you're the person, it is very challenging to gravitate toward people in 100 plus accounts. You're likely, and even when I had 100, 200 accounts, I was gravitating toward, frankly, the 20 or 30 that I would talk to on a regular basis. And then I was finding scale mechanisms to make quality touch points, webinar invites, newsletters, LinkedIn connection requests, posts, ways that I can engage on a daily basis with the other 80, 60% of those accounts, whatever that looked like. So you've got to focus on heat of relationship. You got to figure out where there are synergies, where there are people talking to you. And frankly, once you figure out a way to make that balance work, and you've created fertile ground for potential deals within those 20, 30 accounts, and you focus on that propensity to buy. Again, we talk a lot about probability and odds in sales. And so you've got to really figure out where is the best probability and odds that I can invest time here and make it turn into a relationship that is going to bear fruit for both organizations. So be very intentional about how you schedule your time. Be very intentional about how you make quality touches across the spectrum. And then as you see what comes back, as you see what fruits are yielded, you're obviously going to want to gravitate towards the ones that are the most right. When I go out and I prospect and I send out 100 connection requests or 100 messages trying to get a conversation, frankly, as soon as I get a response, I drop all prospecting activity for that moment. And I focus on, okay, I've got someone who is willing to have a conversation. I need to set that up. I need to make that happen. I need to focus on that discussion, make sure it is successful. Same philosophy goes when you have 20, 30 accounts or 20% of your accounts that are engaging regularly, not necessarily reaching out, but at least responding when you attempt to reach out. Because again, you're focused on a conversation game. You want to start conversations. It's not enough that you're talking to one or two people at an organization. You want to be talking to many more, because there's not just BDMs, there's influencers. Influencers can share information and intel that's going to be critical to share with those BDMs, that you know those things, like their buying cycles, like their contract dates, their fiscal year end. Understanding where they are, where they're looking to go, the vision that is shared with you from an influencer is going to help you a great deal with a BDM. So be very intentional about how you schedule your time. Gravitate toward, frankly, a heat map type of philosophy. And me personally, if I had 100 accounts, I went through every account every day, and I just asked myself, what do I need to do, or what could I do today to keep the ball moving down the field for this account? Do I reach out to a partner? Do I need to call a customer? Do I need to send a quick touch point email? If it's nothing, I move on. But if it's something, I do that, and then I move forward down that list. That is how you can effectively scale and manage that book of business, that larger book of business. But you're going to gravitate toward the responses that you're getting, and you're going to make sure that you're setting up fertile ground for relationships. Happy selling.